Today, for the very first time, I'm listening to the brand new Zac Brown Band album, The Comeback. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another album review / reaction here on my channel. For those of you who are new, if you've never seen any of the videos on my channel like this before, know that basically what's going to happen is I'm just going to take the new Zac Brown Band album, put it in my CD player, and listen to it all the way through from front to back for the very first time, while giving you all my thoughts on what I'm hearing, mostly probably production-wise, maybe a few sort of thoughts on some lyrics, different things like that. Basically what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling while I'm listening for the very first time. If that sounds cool, please feel free to watch the whole video. However, I understand if not everybody wants to stay here and watch the whole thing. So, in the description of this video, you will see timestamps for all the different relevant sections. So, usually at the beginning of the video, I'll talk a little bit. I'm planning to talk a little bit about Zac Brown Band, my favorite albums from them, things like that. If you want to skip that and head right to the very beginning of the album, you can do that. Also, after I'm done listening to the entire album, that's when I usually do my sort of review, if you will, or give my overall thoughts on the album. So if you just want to skip everything and head to see what I think of this album at the very end of the video, feel free to do that as well. If you have a favorite track, there will also be each individual track with a timestamp as well, so check the description of the video for that. You will also notice in the description of this video, I will include a link to listen along with me to this album on Spotify. I will not be including any actual audio from the Zac Brown Band album in this video. I do not know how certain channels get away with uploading an individual song, let alone an entire album's worth of songs. Even though I'm going to be talking over it, even though I get that there's fair use and all sorts of things like that, I do not know how channels get away with that. So for me, I think it's simpler to just stick with the, the format I've been doing, which is just basically giving you a link to listen along with me. And I do recommend you do that because I think listening along will give you sort of the best viewing experience for this video. So before I get too far into Zac Brown Band, I have a few confessions I have to make. The first thing is that I am currently going through and not necessarily renovating, but sort of cleaning out and moving a lot of stuff around in the basement, which is where I always film my videos. So that's why I'm in a slightly different location, and the background is pretty messy, and the lighting, especially with my hat, the lighting is not the greatest. So I wanted to just go ahead and mention that. I'm setting up a little area where I want to try to film my videos in the future, and I'm going to hang some records on the wall and just make it sort of look really nice and cool for a little background. Unfortunately, I still have the same kind of crappy camera. The lighting will never be very good because I don't have very good lighting, but whatever. We're here to discuss audio, and the video, I know, isn't like a super big deal. I always wish my stuff could look a little bit better, but it is what it is. So anyway, that's why I'm in a slightly different location. The second confession I have to make is that I am not, in fact, a cowboy. Though I have lived my entire life in Nebraska, in the middle of the United States, and I do live on a farm. And my folks own a farm with some cattle, and they grow corn and soybeans. And the harvest season is over now, and just done for us. My dad finished harvesting the last of his corn last week, so we're enjoying having some time off. But I myself am not a farmer. I am an audio editor, so hopefully the audio for this video at least sounds good with my microphones. But anyway, all beyond that, I just want to bring that up and say that I am not usually a big fan of country music and just sort of country lifestyle, country living, as it were. There's a lot of aspects that I love. I do live on a farm, like I said. There's a lot of aspects of the lifestyle that I enjoy, but there's a lot of things that I don't enjoy. And one of those things in general is country music. And one of the very few exceptions to that rule for me has always been, or at least in my adult life for the last decade or so, has always been the Zac Brown Band. I absolutely... Okay, before I get too deep into that, one other confession I have to make is that I am getting over a very, very bad cold that I have been suffering for over the last 2 weeks or so. Do not worry, it's not coronavirus. And I'm going to try really hard not to cough. The only thing nothing hurts on me, nothing. I still got everything. I'm totally fine, except occasionally occasionally I have to cough, and it's really annoying. It doesn't hurt or anything. It just kind of comes from nowhere. So while I'm talking here, I may have to do some edits and stuff to edit around some coughing. So I apologize for that. I also apologize if it sounds like like I'm on the verge of a cough at any given moment. I will try to. I can go for hours and hours and hours in a day without coughing at all. And of course, here I am recording a video, and I feel like I've got to cough every 5 seconds. But I don't know if I'll be able to edit that out too much during the actual listening of the album. So just kind of bear with me throughout this video. And if I film any other videos today as well, just kind of bear with me. Like I said, Zac Brown, one of the very few bands that are sort of the exception to the rule for me when it comes to country music. And I learned to love them while we were listening to What You See Is What You Get, which is my favorite Zac Brown Band album. When we listened to this album for several months in the record store that I used to work at, the Hastings Entertainment store, not just a record store, where we sold all sorts of stuff there, but we used to listen to different albums that we sold in the store. And we listened to this album for several months. And at first I was like, oh, generic country music. This sounds awful. But what I ended up realizing was Zac Brown Band is anything but generic, or at least they used to be. Get to that in a second. But what I ended up doing was totally falling in love with this album and then going back and buying their first album, The Foundation. And these two albums are pretty different, actually. I love The Foundation because even though there are those moments like Toes and Chicken Fried, well, actually Toes is a little different because Toes has like that sort of island feel that Zac Brown is known for, as well as the sort of more sort of generic-y country songs like Chicken Fried. Apart from those songs, and maybe a couple other moments, this album has a very old-timey country feel to it, and the soloing is especially phenomenal. That's what I love about The Foundation, is the soloing. I think the musicianship is absolutely incredible, and second to none, really. And I love everything about all the solos in the songs. The way they can do fiddle solo, electric guitar solo, acoustic guitar solo at the drop of a hat. Totally amazing. And I think Zac Brown's acoustic guitar playing on that album is really, really, really good. Unfortunately, they sort of ditched what I liked most about that album, which was the sort of bluegrassy, old-timey country feel and the soloing, when they got into, again, what I said is my favorite Zac Brown Band album, What You See Is What You Get. They kind of got away from the solos and all the sort of more bluegrassy sound and went for what I think is a bit more of a... This album, and then their album after it, actually, which is Uncaged, they reminded me a lot of a band called The Band, or something like the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Those bands that were sort of like folk rock from the late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, and even into the 80s, really. But basically, they could do anything they wanted, as long as it kind of fit within the realm of Americana, bluegrass, country, folk music. And they did it to perfection. And I really think that their best songwriting to date has been on What You See Is What You Get. I think that the songwriting on that album is just so fantastic. The vocal harmonies, which are something that hold true through all Zac Brown Band albums, the vocal harmonies are just phenomenal and really, really fun to sing along with. You can sing the high part, you can sing the lead part, you can sing the low bass part. I love doing that when I'm driving around in my car or something. So I love those sort of aspects of these albums. And then when we're talking about their catalog, we get to what I think is maybe their most special album in their discography, and that is Jekyll and Hyde. And I know that for most Zac Brown Band fans, Jekyll and Hyde is the sort of most divisive album in their catalog. But to me, being a person who's not really a country music fan, it really spoke to me. I don't say it's my favorite of their albums because I really have a deep connection to What You See Is What You Get, and I think that the songwriting is phenomenal on here. Songwriting is great on all four of these albums. But on Jekyll and Hyde, what they did to me was so special. And this album was actually my number one album of the year it came out, which was, 2015. This was actually my number one album every year on my channel here. I do a list of my top 12 albums of the year, something I work very hard on every year, and I pride myself in the tradition of keeping that going. I'm very proud of all those videos and of all my lists. But Zac Brown Band's album, Jekyll and Hyde, was #1 on my list for the year of 2015. And the reasons for that were because this album is one of the fullest albums I've ever heard, and it contains everything. It contains absolutely everything. The album is very mixed very dynamically. It is not overcompressed at all, which a lot of albums have been over the last decade or so, the last 2 decades, really. It's not overcompressed. It's very dynamic. There are moments where it gets loud. There's moments where it gets very quiet, and it's done very well. Everything is very crisp and clean and clear, like country music tends to be. A lot of the other music that I listen to that would be sort of more Americana or folk music has this like grittiness to it. Or it has this sort of like almost lo-fi, do-it-yourself quality. Whereas if you listen to modern country music, modern pop country music is a lot more electronic based right now. But if you go back a decade, and even back to like 2015 or so, when Taylor Swift's first few albums were coming out, and then the first few Zac Brown Band albums as well, everything was very crisp and clear. The production was very, very, very good, but it didn't have very much character. The production itself didn't have character. And I'm not going to go too deep into that. I've talked about that in other videos on my channel before, but basically, Jekyll and Hyde, that album, the character resides in the different genres that they were doing with each song. There's gospel influence, there's island music influence, there's 90s grunge influence, there's all sorts of stuff. There's hip-hop influence, there's a lot of really cool stuff. There's electronic music influence. That Avicii song that he did with Dan Tyminski, I think it was, that Avicii sort of country song that came out back in probably like 2013, 2014, I think. Hugely influenced, I feel, Jekyll and Hyde, and then also the subsequent Zac Brown Band albums as well. But there was all sorts of influences on that album. It was just so well done. Every song was a full-length song. You can tell they put a lot of effort into it. And the fact that it was this core group of, I think, how many people were in the band at the time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This core group of 8 musicians, plus all these amazing guest musicians, creating this album, to me, it felt like the Wrecking Crew of like the 2010s. It felt like they could go into the studio and do anything that they wanted. And when I say Wrecking Crew, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go look up the Wrecking Crew. They have several documentaries about them. Just go look up their history and you'll immediately know what I'm talking about, especially when I'm referencing Jekyll and Hyde. So at this point, these 4 albums were out. I really enjoyed all of them, and I was really looking forward to what was coming next. And then they release my least favorite Zac Brown Band album, Welcome Home. And this album, to me, I did not like. From the moment I heard it to the subsequent listens of it, I really, really, really dislike this album. I think that almost every element that I enjoyed, again, not being a country fan, and especially really disliking the eye-rolling, cliched, modern pop country that is just everywhere nowadays. I really, really, really dislike that stuff. I think it just seems like such disingenuous music. And I know that Zac Brown has always had songs that appealed to sort of generic country music fans. Like, I get that. But there was always a lot more deeper and below the surface. And I feel like with Welcome Home, they lost almost all of that. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad album. The production is still great, and there are some good songs on there, that get stuck in a guy's head. It just, to me, it felt like, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but it just felt like they were selling out. And I hate it when people use that term in music, because I'm definitely an advocate for bands trying new things and trying to, change their sound up, further them, distance themselves from their past if they want to. And in this case, it just, I just really did not like that album. Maybe if I listen to it now, I haven't listened to it in a year, a couple years, I guess I should say. Maybe if I listen to it now, I'd appreciate it more, but I really don't think so. Then we come to The Owl, which was a really interesting album for me. I enjoyed the album, but not enough to include it on my top 12 albums of the year list. And when I discovered The Owl, I listened to it and I thought, there's some cool elements here that they were trying, especially with that first song, The Woods, that there's like a grittiness and a dirtiness to the way that album sounds, and specifically that song is produced, that I really enjoyed. But at the end of the day, I just couldn't really get into the album. I think there were things that they were doing that were a little different than what they had done before that was appealing to me, but it still kept that sort of like, we want to be on top country pop radio feel to me, and I just really didn't enjoy it very much. So yeah, that's kind of where we're sitting now, and I found out the other day that Zac Brown had a new album, and I didn't even know. So this is The Comeback. Let me put all these away. So this is The Comeback from Zac Brown Band, and I really don't know how I should feel about this, because on one hand, I feel almost no expectation. No, at least I have low expectations, because the last two albums have really disappointed me. However, this album is called The Comeback, which could mean that maybe they went back into the studio and they tried to capture that like Americana bluegrass sort of feel to make it more of like an old school Zac Brown Band album. Maybe that's what they're referring to with The Comeback. Who knows? I mean, I'm sure there's probably a song on here called The Comeback. Yeah, track 8. So maybe they just picked that. Now, I will say the picture on the front just has Zac Brown in it. And I know that the sound of the band over the last few albums has definitely been leaning more towards, we're not so much a band anymore. We're not going to have lots of solo sections. We're not going to really make it feel like some of the songs almost feel like they're just pop songs, basically, with a country sort of singer singing. And I do think Zac Brown's singing is fantastic. His voice is amazing. He has that sort of country pull at the end of every phrase, which gives him the country feeling, the sort of like slide at the end of every phrase or word. So it still feels sort of like a country vocalist, but overall, he could sing not country songs, and I don't think it would sound that out of place. And he has done that on some of their albums, like I said, Jekyll and Hyde. But, you know, the last few albums have felt like they've been less of a band and more just sort of Zac Brown. So maybe the fact that he released his solo album, he was able to get some of that, like, let's make this whole album basically an electronic album with all electronic drums and electronic bass, synth bass and things like that, and use lots of synths and things. Maybe he got all that out of his system, and this album is going to be sort of coming back to basics. Or it could just be more of the same, you know, par of the course for what they've been doing. I don't know. I will say I did look in the booklet, and so I did see the pictures. I did see the pictures of everybody. Most of the pictures are just Zac Brown, though. But there is one picture in here of everybody that's still in the band. And as far as I know, it's mostly all the same members that were on these previous albums, plus maybe one or two guys that joined up over time. But bass player is still the same. The fiddle player is still the same. And I know those guys were kind of part of the core with Zac. So I don't really know what to think. The artwork with them being in the river, kind of washing off or something, maybe could hint at, you know, I don't really know. Let's just get into it. Let's just get into it and listen to this album. Like I said, I don't really know what to expect at all. I've heard literally nothing. I've heard no single. I've heard zero from this album. So I don't really know what to expect. I know that I'm excited. Like, even though I have kind of low expectations, I want this album to be album of the year. I want every song to be 6 minutes long with a 2-minute long solo section where everyone can like show their musical prowess and their technical musicianship. I want that. I don't think we're really going to get that, but who knows? So, and like I said, if I have to cough while we're listening to this, I probably won't actually edit the video itself. So you may see me coughing, and I might just have to edit out some of the audio, which I know might make it weird because you're supposed to be listening to me talking while you're listening to the music as well. So I apologize if anything funky happens, but I will try to make it so that everything lines up so that if you hit play when I hit play, as long as no ads are happening on your end, we're just listening to the album all the way through, it should line up pretty well. So with all that said, Zac Brown Band, The Comeback. I'm hitting play right now. I'll tell you when it starts because my CD player will take a few seconds. Track 1, it says slow burn starting right now. Okay, we got electric guitar on the right, acoustic guitar on the left. Okay. Okay, some gang vocals, but it sounds like they're totally mono right in the middle. Okay, the drums sound very mono. The mix sounds very mono, meaning everything is in the middle. But the bass sounds nice, very rounded, not much definition in it, but you don't need that for this sort of music. On the right, there's some slide guitar, pedal steel. The kick drum seems like it might be a smidge loud. Okay, much like the One Republic album that I just did a reaction to a few videos ago, if you look in the book here, you may think, oh, sorry, let me try to get the glare there is annoying. I'm sorry. If you look at the book here, you may think, sorry for the glare. You may think, oh, those are all the lyrics to the song. No, that's how much information it takes to talk about the production and aspects for each song. So this is definitely feeling like a pop album thus far. Okay, so far, as I mentioned, sort of one of my favorite things about Zac Brown up to this point has been the background vocals. I think background vocals are one of the most important, but also one of the most underappreciated aspects in all of music, all history of sort of modern recorded music. Having Zac Brown Band's, the rest of the guys in the band, do their incredible harmonies that bloom and make the choruses feel so big, that was one of my favorite things about them, about the band. And they kind of lost that on the last two albums. They didn't really have a lot of those sort of singable choruses. Mostly it was just Zac Brown doing his vocals with a few other tracks of Zac Brown over them. Now, of course, I am hearing some other people in there, but the background vocals feel mono, and they feel a lot less impactful than they have on past records. And so far, it really just sounds like Zac Brown is the one doing his overdubs. And the mix is interesting. The snare has a lot of mid to low range frequency in it. It does sound nice. The drums sound, like I said, almost mostly mono. Even the crashes and everything sound mono. And usually when you mix an album like that, it's because you want to emphasize certain other things on the outside. In this case, the guitars were on the outside. Okay, that's track 1 down, track 2 right. Now, ooh. Okay, right away, totally different. Acoustic guitar in the middle, acoustic guitar on the right, acoustic guitar on the left. Okay, this is reminding me a lot of Bones from, and what's that band? You Got Bones in Your Closet. Although this is produced way better than that. That album does not sound very good. Little Big Town. Okay, that was nice background vocals. Ooh. Okay, that was neat. That doon, 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 the falling down, the melody there stepping down, that was very nice. That was Zac Brown Band. That is a band that knows more than just playing the root chords. Okay, I think I hear some like really low vocoder stuff in there, which is pretty neat. I really am enjoying the acoustic guitar on this. This song feels like a little bit dirty and bluesy. The kick is massive, and I think a little bit unnecessarily so. And the drums are the same, though. They still feel like they're totally right in the middle. There's a little bit of a cymbal, crash cymbal off to the right. For the most part. Okay, there we got some oohs. Oh, guitar solo. Far left? Put the solo in the middle. Yuck. I'm happy there's a solo there. Beggars can't be choosers. I get it. Are we going to get a solo on the right now? No. I want to look at the production notes here. Produced by Zac Brown and Ben Simonetti. Engineered by Ryan Gore. Engineering assistance by Dan Davis and Cam Luchterhand. Additional engineering by Ben Samadi, Clay Cook, John Driscoll Hopkins, and Matt Mangano, 3 members of the band. Recorded at Southern Ground, Nashville. That's their studio. Okay. That song felt very short. Okay, Wild Palomino, track 3. Mastered by Ted Jensen at Sterling Sound. I've listened to several albums he's mastered this year on my channel here. My shirt's a tiny bit tight for me. Keep worrying that I'm going to have like a hole here. Apologize if I keep messing with my shirt. I'm just too fat. So every song has its individual... So this is just acoustic guitar. Nice background vocals here. So this track, it says Zac Brown, lead vocals, acoustic guitar, Clay Cook vocals, Hammond organ, pedal steel, Jimmy DiMartini, vocals, fiddle, Danielle De La Rise, percussion, Matt Mangano, bass, Chris Fryer, drums, Ilya Toshinsky, apologize if I'm pronouncing, acoustic guitar, Paul Franklin, pedal steel. Oh. Wow. Very cool. Very cool to have just that low tone there. And then the kick, you can tell that there was actual drum room sound in there because when the kick was going, you could hear a little bit of the snares rattling. I'm sure that the kick and the snare has been replaced on this. Because it just... I'm sure that's how it was done. I like the sort of Western feel of the last 2 songs, kind of. Nice fiddle solo. This song feels to me like Zac Brown used to feel, Zac Brown Band. This is nice. There's not a ton of high frequencies in the overall mix. I think that would be more towards the mastering than the mix itself, though. Nice. Oh, this is good. And I want to say as well, like, I kind of already mentioned, like, I never begrudge a band for wanting to do something different. And I really do think that the first 3 Zac Brown Band albums do feel like they were the same band doing sort of the same kind of thing. Big harmony choruses. They did change it up and add a little bit of sort of like a soul R&B element almost on a couple of the songs on... every album has a few things that's a little bit different. But those first 3 albums were very similar sounding overall at the end of the day. So I get the idea from wanting to change it up for Jekyll and Hyde. And then if people really rebelled against that and said, this isn't what we want more toes in the water, ass in the sand, drinking my cold beer, like that kind of like eye-rolling cliche, get in my pickup truck, like, oh, that is what I hate about country music. Just the mentions of the same stuff in this every song, it just is, oh, it's so terrible. But anyway. So far, I'm really enjoying this a lot. Now, the snare drum sounds different on this song. A little bit more loose. This is track 4, by the way. We're 25 seconds into it. Now, I also want to say I don't know how the pandemic affected the recording of this album. Some of the albums that I reacted to this year were already done before the pandemic hit last year, and they just had to postpone basically like a year. One Republic did that. That One Republic album, Human, was done back at the end of 2019, and then they pushed it all the way towards the third quarter of 2021. So I don't know if this was recorded with everyone individually in their own home studio. You know, it says on here where stuff was recorded, but you know, I'm not going to read for every song. I want to pay attention, but it's something to think about. The strumming acoustic guitar on the left and the right is very nice. That wasn't really an acoustic guitar part that you pay attention to, other than like, oh, there's some sort of like a percussive rhythmic element. Very nice harmonized guitar solo there. One thing I want to pay attention to. Oh, there was some tom drums. Let's notice if there's a lot of tom drum usage. Because I think several of the sort of more poppy albums that I've listened to this year, almost no tom drums whatsoever, you know? And if you're programming most of the drums, which this is not, you can tell a drummer was playing the kit. Ooh. So there we have some background vocals, a lot of reverbs, like cathedral-sounding reverb on it, very wet reverb. That harmonized guitar solo again, or lead part maybe, not necessarily even solo. All right, track 4 down. This is going pretty fast, but I kind of expected that. It is kind of pop music. I mean, it is. I wish it wasn't. I wish they did something that just totally... Acoustic guitar. Sounds a little boxy. Definitely not like high fidel. This is... Yeah. Man, there's just... I'm not a big fan of reggae music really at all either. That's one of my genres of music that I've never really got into. I haven't been exposed to a ton of it. There's some sort of hip-hop influenced reggae that I have enjoyed. You know, Mayday, their last few albums have been really reggae sort of influenced, island influenced. The eyes in the woman's eyes. Goes on there, that sounds very similar to another one of their old songs. Note the bone and the woman's eye. But hey, it sounds like an older Zac Brown Band song. I'm okay with it. But what I was going to say was, to finish my thought on the island feel, that to me has always been one of the sort of more unique parts of Zac Brown Band in the country sphere. And I love that they do that. I am not like a fan of Jimmy Buffett that much, that style of just sort of yacht rock or whatever they call it. But it is interesting to have some of those influences in all of Zac Brown's catalog. And they definitely got a groove. Some cool percussion stuff going on. Almost sounds like someone's playing some spoons or something. And what that does, it's an imperfect transient on the beats. It gives everything a very loose feel, which is what you want with this sort of island feel. And whistling. Oh, fiddle solo. A little bit of a twangy guitar off to the left, like that. I will say, overall, the production on this whole album feels like it's a little bit, it's more contained. Those claps are nice, sound like they're recorded in a big room that's spread out nice. And I'm not necessarily saying the production being more contained and smaller is a bad thing. You know, this every song feels like it's fit nicely into the pocket rather than existing in this giant space. Not saying it's a bad thing. That was nice to have the gang vocals there, kind of doing the little whistling and cheering and stuff. Makes everything feel very loose again. I love that. Those like just tapping percussive elements. Love it. The chorus, though, does sound very similar to an older Zac Brown song. Okay. Track 5. Nice. I like that one. First island one we've encountered. Stubborn Pride, track 6. Sounds like a ballad, much slower. Ooh. Oh, that snare hit. I do think that there's a little bit of a disparateness to me between the kick and the snare. The snare sounds very much like a drum played in a room, whereas the kick just sounds like basically a nice sounding electronic kick. There we're getting a little bit more of the room kick sound. And the snare is playing a rim shot. Zac Brown's vocals here have a little bit of a delayed reverb on them. So there's reverb on it, but there's also a little bit of a delay with it so that there's a little bit more chunkiness to the reverb. I will also say the amount of autotune that was on Zac Brown's vocals on the last few albums have been a little bit kind of like, I know you don't need it. I know you can sing fantastically. I also know that it's totally a choice. Like I said, I like One Republic. And the last 2 One Republic albums, Ryan Tedder has turned autotune up to 11. This is nice, some female backing vocals. Let's see who that lady is. There is no woman in the picture of the... Okay, so this is a guest vocalist. Okay, what track are we on here? Track 6, Stubborn Pride, featuring Marcus King. Oh, Marcus, this sounds like a male. Maybe it was male vocals. I apologize if I didn't hear. Nope. Background vocals, Nikki Connolly and Keshana Armstrong. And then Marcus King as well, also with some background vocals. So yes, there are some female background vocals. And that was a guest male vocalist, Marcus King. Very nice. That was one of the things that I loved as well about Jekyll and Hyde. All of the additional guest musicians. Very nice. Nice. Yes. Oh yeah, love that guitar tone. Nice. A bit of fuzz to it. Yes. And it's off to the right a little, too. And then we have acoustic guitar on the left and acoustic guitar on the right. And actually possibly 2 acoustic guitars on the left. One kind of strumming, doing more of a palm-muted pattern. But then there's strumming and arpeggiated broken chords. On the right, we just have strumming acoustic guitar. Wow. Awesome. Yes. Oh, yeah. Bit of a funky note there, but yeah. Oh, I love the gospel feel there. Awesome. Yes, this is great. I can already tell that this album is going to have to probably be one that I listen to multiple times before I decide whether or not I love it or just really like it, because I'm already really liking it. Definitely better than the last 2 albums, in my opinion, and we're only on track 6 of a 15-track album, so... Acoustic guitar solo. Okay, we have two guitar players. One on the right, one on the left. Right's playing lead, left is kind of diddling along with him. Oh, yes, yes, give the song time to breathe. Yes, very cool. Don't fade out, though. Do not fade out. I love this. This is great. It was the experimentation. It was the allowing a song to be more than just the pop part of it that really, to me, made all the other stuff stand out. Yes. Come back in with, now we got the snare in there. Oh, I love this. This is the best song on the album so far. A little bit of a subtle organ in the back. Acoustic guitar is back now. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Don't use it all up here, though. Spread this out over all the songs. I want this throughout. Be a band that can do things other country bands can't do, because we all know you can do that. Now it says Marcus King, vocals, electric guitar, acoustic guitar. I don't know if that's him doing the solo, but if it is, fantastic. Whoever did it, there were 3 or 4 people listed in the credits as playing an electric guitar. Really nice. 7-minute song. Now, when you have 15 songs on an album, I understand you can't have all of them be 7 minutes. Okay. That song was great. I do think the solo lasted a little bit too long at the end there, but sing about his truck, but it's fun so far. We need some good background vocals. Sound effects in the song. Boom, 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 boom. A lot of sound effects here. Ooh. Yes. Banjo. Oh, this is great. Yes. Oh, yes, I love this. That fast picking stuff. Oh, I hear the phone ringing. I'm going to ignore it. Sorry for the telephone ringing in the background. Bar? Behind our old bar? Not sure I really care for all the sound effects, but I appreciate it. It's nice. Boom, 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 boom. It's just so fun. Yeah, that's what the song's called, fun, having fun. It's just so fun to listen to them having fun as musicians. Now give me a good solo here. Let everybody have fun. Ooh, key change. Nope. Just some... double time? Nice. Oh, that stop and then that extra beat there. Oh, so nice. We are Zac Brown banding in the best way right now. I love it. A lot of having fun on that song, and that's what I am here for. Love it. Okay, the comeback, track 8. This will be half over once this song's done. Ooh, that tambourine hit, which is gone now. Now we got a shaker. Or probably like on a kielbasa. Is this going to be the like anthem everyone shouted out at the concerts? Nice chord change there. I like that. Makes me feel reminiscent. Oh. Oh. I'm a sucker for some gospel influence. Maureen Murphy, background vocals. Nikki Conley, background vocals. Kishona Armstrong, background vocals. The same 3 ladies. Love it. Love it. That tambourine now. Yeah. Oh boy. We've had 3 fantastic songs in a row. If they just got the sort of more mediocre songs out of the way right away, and the rest of the album is this good, as good as the last 3 songs. Ooh, key change there. Nice gang vocals there. Yes. I'm very happy. Track 9. Now, Old Love Song. See, this is what I want from Zac Brown Band. I really don't even care what they're singing about or what's going on in the songs. I just want each song to have its own individual flavor. Doesn't have to be a different genre of music, but give each song its own specific color of sprinkles so that each one stands out a little bit from the rest. Love the bass line on this. So we got congos or bongos on this song. A lot of extra percussion. I like that. And I believe they have a person in the band who just does aux percussion. I really enjoy that when a band has that. I'm not a big fan of congos and bongos. I think once you add congos or bongos, and I use those words kind of interchangeably, once you add sort of more ethnic sounding drums like that to something, it's going to have that particular sound that those instruments give to the song. But man, oh, that organ is so nice there. That was nice. I like how they have the background vocals, the gang vocals here, come in on the third line of the chorus. Yeah, love it. Bass is really nice in this. Ooh. Now that sounds like actual violins and not just a fiddle part. This just makes me happy. Listening to this just makes me happy. Nice, some tom drums there. Nice tom fill. Love that on the acoustic guitar going the... Love it. Yeah. Ooh, love it. That palm muted electric guitar. Very nice, spread out wide. Oh, and they have some of that amp reverb, that like teardrop sounding reverb. Oh, I love it. Oh. Yes. This is good. This is a good sign. Track 10. Now. Okay. Oh, we got some air. We had some air in the acoustic guitars. That's nice. But in the background, there's a bit of like a distorted, very much high-pass filtered drum beat going on. We haven't got that, like, let's bring everything down sad song. And I don't think that's what this is either. Okay, a little bit of a build there, and then let it settle down again. Okay, no snare drum yet. We'll see how much the song builds. Oh. Okay, there is snare drum in there now, but it's very far in the background. It's interesting. And that thing, the sort of distorted thing is still going in the background. Okay, the kick is in there now. Snare drum's still very much a background thing, but that tambourine. Tambourine on the 2. Ooh, piano. A piano sounding piano. Okay, I'm hear some like bigger strings in there. Track 10. Oh, the string's very nice. Okay, we have a cello. So someone playing cello, which is very nice. And it specifically credits Clay Cook as playing, well, many, among other things, vocals, electric guitar, Hammond organ, drums, acoustic guitar, piano, synths. So synths, I'm guessing there's some synth strings on here as well. But having the fiddle player and having the real cello player, that is very nice. Very tasty. Love it. That was great. Ended a little bit abruptly, I think. It would have been nice to have a little bit more on the ending there. All right, a little plucking part almost there. This is track 11, by the way. I want the album to end on like a really big note. I want it to end really nicely. This is nice. Again, the organ always so tasty, so good. I really like the background vocals on this song a lot. A little bit more to them, and they're spread out wider, too. There's more layering to them. I could have done with a little bit of a solo there. That would have been nice. Little acoustic guitar solo. This song has a tiny bit of like the island feel to it, but I wouldn't say that it's really the island feel. I mean, I hear him talking about sitting on the beach and stuff, but the music's not very islandy. There is that little thing on the side that, I don't know what you call it, that click, click, tick, tick, that like wood block or something, high-pitched wood block. Okay. That song was a little bit mediocre, but it was still nice and fun. And it's only less than 2.5 minutes long, so that song I can kind of throw away. Obviously, I am loving this. Turn that distortion up, baby. Oh, yeah. Nice. Those are the harmonies I'm talking about. Where are we going? He does like to sing about Georgia a lot. Dude, that's nice. I love this. I've always wanted them to do a bit of a heavier album. Love it. Love the combination of the heavier rock guitars with the acoustic guitar. Very nice. Yes. Oh. There better be a shredding guitar solo in this song. They're building it up. Give me the solo. Come on. Come on, right here. No. Double time chorus, though. Okay. Okay. I get it. Double tempo the song, then give me the solo. Just don't you dare fade it out. No fade outs here. All right, nice. Going back to the riff. Love the guitar squeals. Ooh, that was a nice surprise. That was nice. We still need that low, slow, sad song. Okay, Love and Sunsets, track 13. We only got 3... Well, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, we only got 3 songs left, including this one. Oh, that's very nice. Very pretty acoustic guitar part. I do like all the acoustic guitar spread out across this album, and I'm almost guessing one of the reasons for that is because a lot of it was probably written in isolation. You know, Zac Brown writes the song, or whoever writes the song, records a bunch of different acoustic guitar parts for it, and then they slowly fill it in with other things and take some of the acoustic guitar away, but a lot of the acoustic guitar parts get left in. But also they're using the acoustic guitar as a nice rhythmic instrument. That's what it is in a lot of songs, just a rhythm, just something to kind of push the song forward, rather than a part that's really meant to be focused on. Very nice. Nice vocal harmonies here, spread out nice. No, to the right a little. This is nice. That acoustic guitar just sort of ever present in this song, full track all the way through left, right. When they perform this live, all three guys could be playing acoustic guitar. There's the violin on the left, which is nice. I mean, I think it's been there, but that was the first part where it was really playing something noticeable. Oh, I love it when everything goes away and it's just them singing. They have such a unique and very cool, harmony section, basically. I love it. That was very nice. Sunsets. Speaking of sunsets, here in Nebraska right now, sunsets are happen at like 5 o'clock, 5:30. We're definitely losing a lot of daylight. It was pretty crazy before we just switched to switch the time back an hour for daylight savings. All right, that's track 13. We only got 2 more. Track 14, Closer to Heaven. Love the drums right away. Love that hi-hat. Okay. So we have some electric guitar on the far right, far left now. Ooh, and that was nice. A little lick there on the far right. Nice. One of my favorite parts, I kind of mentioned earlier, one of my favorite parts of all the Zac Brown Band harmony vocals is that you could really differentiate the different parts. It's not so much the case on this album very much at all. It just kind of sounds like a wall of sound. I really always, like I kind of mentioned, I always really enjoy doing the sort of bass parts. When I'm driving around singing it, I really, really enjoyed that on the older albums, and I don't think I'd really be able to do it on this album at all. But at least I think on this album there has been a lot of moments. Ooh, guest vocals here. Gregory Porter. Gregory Porter, not sure who that is. The voice sounds like a voice of maybe a little bit of a slightly older man. It's very nice. Letting him do the lead vocals in the second chorus, that's a very Zac Brown Band thing. They've done that with many of their guest artists. Zac does the first verse, first chorus. Then the guest vocalist, there we go, Zac comes back in. Guest vocalist comes in and does the second verse, and most of, if not all of, the second chorus. Then Zac comes in and they all kind of sing it together. Very nice. I love the going back and forth. Ooh, those strings. Very nice. Love just the sound of the drums. It's nice. This is the way the song started. Now, before we get to the last song, which is called Don't Let Your Heart. Don't let your heart what? Don't let your heart break? Don't let your heart love? Like, what is it? What does that mean? Don't let your heart. I don't know what I want it to be. Part of me wants it to be a big bombastic song. Part of me wants it to be the ballad of the album, the just acoustic guitar and Zac singing with some strings and stuff, or have the whole band and just be slow, you know, really down-tempo ballad. I don't know. What's it going to be, though? I want it to be something special. Track 15, now. Okay, acoustic guitar. Ooh, big. Very cool. Piano, love it. Dude, I love the piano. This feels like a Jimmy Buffett song. Bass sounds a little bit weird. That palm muted electric or palm muted acoustic guitar is nice, spread out very wide. The stereo delay. Nice. Whoa. I want a nice piano solo if the piano player is going to shred like they are. Okay, bring it down and give me some solos for 10 minutes now. No, I don't want to look. I was going to look, press the button, see how much time we had left on the song. Nice electric guitar on the left. Electric guitar on the right now, too, doing a little bit of a riff. Left side doing the lick. Ooh. They broke it down. All right. Love it. Bit more distortion now. I want them to let there to be a little bit of soloing at the end, but I don't think there's going to be. We're at 3 minutes here already. This is very nice, though. Total album, 53 minutes and 56 seconds. All right. Okay, well. Okay, so I think that was great. I think that far and away better than their last two albums, by large margin. I would be interested to go back and listen to their last two albums again, and I should have done that to prep for this so I could talk a little bit more authoritatively on why I dislike those albums so much compared to the rest of their catalog. But this album feels like it fits in with their older, more now, if I kind of like look at the Zac Brown Band timeline, if you will, and you zoom out, I think you can look at their first three albums and group those in together and say this is one sort of era of Zac Brown Band. Then you have Jekyll and Hyde, which is its complete own individual separate thing, its own little box, if you're separating the timeline. Then you have their three most recent albums. And I do think that this album fits in with their three most recent albums production-wise and maybe songwriting-wise a little bit better than their first three. This album was not really like Jekyll and Hyde at all. Totally not even close. So, and I don't mean close as being good, just like sonically and the way they wrote the songs, not really very easy to compare this to Jekyll and Hyde. So, I love the first three Zac Brown Band albums a lot. And I kind of went over before I started the album, why. This album had a lot of those elements there. There was a lot of acoustic guitar. The drums were really played, even though the kick and the snare, I believe, were replaced, or the kick for sure was replaced. Maybe not necessarily replaced, but there were additional layers added. Definitely they did not record the kick that way without adding some, like a really nice sounding kick to it. The drums were, throughout the whole album, the drums were very mono. They weren't necessarily mono, but they were very narrow in the mix. And that was nice because like I said, what that does is it allows you to pan something left, pan something right, and to have those things be a little bit more prominent. You know, if the drummer is playing crash cymbals, you know, and things like that, which is, you know, what mostly a drummer would do, you know, at the beginnings of sections and things like that, or if you're listening to metal music, just crash cymbals basically the whole time. And then it's where you're playing the crash cymbals and which cymbal you're playing on can help sort of separate the different sections of a song. But for something like this, that's mostly like hi-hat, you know, ride cymbal, and crash cymbals a lot as well. Having the drums be narrow, or the drum stereo space at least be a little bit more narrow, like I said, allows the guitars to be on the outside. I do think almost everything that I heard was mono recording and then just spread. Not necessarily the drums, but every acoustic guitar that I heard, as far as I know, was mono recorded. Just recorded one track of the acoustic guitar on the one mic on the acoustic guitar, and then that was panned either left or right, or in a lot of the songs it felt like there was a track of acoustic guitar on the left, track of acoustic guitar on the right, and in some cases, in certain songs, with those two elements both there, also a track of acoustic guitar in the middle. Now, some of the songs that was sort of replaced, and there was like a bit of electric guitar on the right, electric guitar on, you know, we're looking at each other, but electric guitar on the right, electric guitar on the left. And then there would be like a little bit of a lick over here or a lick over here, a little guitar fill, if you will. And so they definitely didn't shy away from having overdubs. You know, they could have, you know, probably the same acoustic guitar player played all of those acoustic guitar parts, I would assume. Maybe Zac Brown, you know, I assume when they record these songs, Zac goes in and records himself doing a scratch vocal track and a scratch acoustic guitar track. What that means is that you just go in and you play the song. Don't really care about what it sounds too much, so long as you can hear the guitar and the vocals. And then the drums are recorded after that based on the acoustic guitar, and then the bass is recorded after with the drums, after the drums are recorded. And then the guitars and everything else is added after the fact, all the aux percussion, all the gang vocals, all the overdub vocals, everything like that. That's typically how you would do a record like this. Now, they could have the drummer in one room, Zac in one room playing acoustic guitar, the bass player in one room, and have those three elements all recording at the same time. That way you could do bass and drums at the same time. But the bass guitar on this album for sure did not stand out at all. I mentioned it in one track, and I think that was the only track that I really noticed it as being a actual bass guitar part. Almost every other song, it was literally just, you know, some of the songs where they were being a little more playful, the bass was doing the boom, 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 boom. But the rest of it was just a low droning note with no high frequency definition whatsoever. Just a low droning frequency note in basically the root of whatever the song happened to be, whatever chord was playing at that moment. It was just doing the root of that, and there wasn't a lot of patterns or anything like that. In the past, their bass part, I feel like on their first three albums, the bass part was a little bit more integrated into the song to be more of a featured element. Definitely on this album, not though at all. And that's okay. That's definitely speaking towards what modern music is doing right now. A lot of modern music, the bass is non-intelligible whatsoever. It's just low droning notes. And that's fine. That's all they want. That's all the artist wants the bass to be. They're not focusing on it. And that's cool. I don't think that that's a negative at all. I do think that they have a really good bass player. They have multiple guys in the band that are really good bass players. And I think if they did make an album that sounded a little bit more traditional, like their first 3 albums, and you could hear the bass more, whether it was upright or electric bass, by the way, I think that would be nice. I do think that this album sounded really good, though, I would say sonically. I think that it was a little different. Like I said, the drums were mixed very narrow, giving the guitars space on the outsides, but they also took the narrow approach, narrow in terms of stereo spectrum. They took the narrow approach with the overdubs as well. It almost sounds like they recorded the gang vocals mono, and then maybe they recorded 1 or 2 tracks of overdubs, not overdubs, background vocals. Difference between an overdub and a background vocal, which you could do overdubs of background vocals. But when I say overdub, what I mean is Zac Brown sings the lead vocal of the song, and then if he would add an additional vocal or 2, even if he's doing a harmony, those are sort of overdubs that he's doing over himself. Background vocals, which overdubs can be background vocals. I know it's getting confusing, but to me, when I'm thinking of Zac Brown Band, when I say background vocals, I mean the other members of the band doing their vocals, which are probably not the lead vocal part, the background vocal part. As I mentioned, the background vocals are one of my favorite parts on one of my favorite aspects of all of the Zac Brown Band's catalog. And those first 3 albums especially, the background vocals were like one of the most important things to me on those albums and one of the things that stuck out the most. And here, having the background vocals be more narrow, and I definitely feel less prominent on a majority of the songs. Some of the songs, it felt like a throwback where the vocals were spread out a little bit more nicely, and you could really differentiate between some of the different guys in the band's voices. That was really nice when you had those songs, but I think that was maybe only 4 or 5 songs at most that felt like that. Out of a 15-song album, that's not a very good percentage. That's only maybe a third of the album. The other 2/3 of the album, the background vocals were there, and there were definitely parts happening, but I feel like it was mixed a lot more narrower stereo spectrum-wise and down in the mix. Zac's vocals were definitely the most prominent, and on some of those earlier Zac Brown Band albums, when it gets to the part where everyone's singing, his vocals are not lost ever, but they definitely become a part of the whole, rather than the background vocals being behind Zac's voice. This album, definitely the whole time, Zac's voice was front and center and the focal point, basically. So I'm a little bummed about that, even though I am happy that they did it the way I wanted them to do it on maybe a third of the album or so. Solos, I wanted a lot more. That's just me. They haven't done that on their last 4 albums, really. There were not a lot of solos on... there really weren't a ton of solos on Uncaged, but there were moments. And Uncaged had a lot of moments in the songs themselves where their technical prowess was being shown. And then on Jekyll and Hyde, there were almost no solos whatsoever. There were a few moments where there were solos, but for the most part, the solos didn't stand out on that album at all. It was the fact that every song was basically a different genre of music that made every song on that album stand out. And then since then, on their other 2 albums that I dislike, The Welcome Home and The Owl, almost really no solos to speak of whatsoever. Maybe 1 or 2. And I'm not as familiar with those albums because I just disliked them right away when I heard them. And then every time I've heard them since then, I just can't even really get through it. Unlike this album, which I enjoyed listening to the whole way. So for the comeback, I think that the mixing was a little interesting. It's different. I think it's mixed maybe a little bit more closely to how The Owl, I think that's the name of their album. Let me just double check. Yeah, The Owl. Mixed a little bit more closely to how this album was mixed. In terms of the recording, having things be mono and then placing them in the spectrum, and how loud they were, how prominent they were, and also just what parts were they adding to a song. They could have recorded it just could have just been 1 track of electric guitar, 1 track of bass and then the drums and then other things sort of around it to fill it in. That is not what these songs were. These songs were some sort of a part on the left, some sort of a part on the right, be it acoustic guitar on the left, acoustic guitar on the right, or acoustic guitar on the left, electric guitar on the right, or both electric guitar, or whatever have you, even some violin or fiddle on the sides as well. It was the sides, the stereo left and stereo right were where the sort of rhythmic part was happening, and then also the sort of like the music of the song was happening. And then in the middle was just sort of the low droning bass note and then the drums. And so there were not a lot of moments where there was like a solo or anything like that instrument-wise happening in the middle, with the exception of acoustic guitar. And I would assume that that's sort of Zac Brown's acoustic guitar, and the songs that he was playing acoustic guitar on, where that was sort of more the featured instrument, that was sort of more in the middle of the mix. But having the whole album be mixed that way did give it a bit of a different feel. I don't think it's necessarily a bad feel. I don't know if I like it as much as the more sort of traditional mixing where everything goes in the mix and then having it be more sort of focused on the center with accents on the sides, which I guess is kind of what they did. But to me, it feels a little bit different. Like this year in a lot of my videos, I've been using the phrase, what was the exact phrase? Something about like the mid-range soup that happens in the background of a lot of songs, a lot of pop songs. It's just some sort of a drum pattern or some sort of a drum pattern with like a synth bass or a droning bass. And then in the background, there's just this sort of like moving reverby soup that's happening. And I got that feel a little bit on this album, but only because there were things happening far right and far left, and they were very similar, but they weren't exactly the exact same thing, like something recorded in stereo. And then panned, or something recorded mono and then with a delay on it to spread it out. There were things that were happening on the left and the right, and they weren't necessarily exactly in time, and there was reverb and things on them. So the soup, the mid-range soup, was a little bit there, but not to the detriment of the album at all, and not distracting or anything like that. I think Zac's vocals were great the whole time. The lack of the crazy auto-tune that they've been using, having that be gone was really nice. There were a few songs where I did hear it a little bit more prevalent. The autotune was a little bit more present, but it didn't bother me at all. And there was no part where it was like gratuitously, And like I said, I don't mind the autotune being used if it's like a conscious choice of like, this song has the autotune sound. We all know Zac Brown can sing. We know everyone in the band probably can sing better than a lot of lead vocalists that you hear on the radios nowadays. So I'm not worried about the fact that autotune or anything like that, any effect is being used to hide any imperfections. I don't think that that's ever the case with any member of the Zac Brown Band. The first few songs disappointed me a little bit, only because they made me feel kind of like Welcome Home or The Owl. And I think maybe when I go back and I listen to this album again, I want to pay a little bit more attention to those songs and how they're structured and how they just kind of feel overall. The first like 4 songs on this album really felt like the most sort of like generic ones on the album, but maybe that's just because that 5th or 6th song, whichever one it was, hit, and I just got really into it, and then I was maybe hyper focusing a little bit more, like I should when I do reactions like this. So we'll see. And that kind of thing, it all kind of comes down to that for me. Like I need to listen to this album a few more times before I start making my decisions as to if it will end up on my list of my top 12 albums. And I know that that's something I bring up in all of my reaction videos. That's something that's always consciously on my mind when I'm listening to something, whether it's for the first time or the 100th time that year. Obviously, if I would listen to an album 100 times in one year, I really, really enjoyed it. But the amount of new music that I listen to is shocking and staggering. So very rarely do I listen to an album more than like probably 10, 15 times within a year. But anyway, I need to listen to this album several times, and I want to listen to it in the car when I'm driving around too. Just to see how that kind of feels. I think it's going to feel nice and fun. There were moments that felt nostalgic for me that felt like older Zac Brown, but then there were also moments where it was just kind of like, this is a little bit generic-y. So overall, I'm very happy with this album. There were moments where you could just see, I'm sure watching the video, that I just like was really excited what I was listening to, and it really made me feel really good. and I like that. There were other moments where I was just sort of indifferent to what I was hearing. So nothing that I disliked a lot. There were really no cringy lyrics. There were a few times where he mentioned like a lot of modern pop country stuff is just really bad in my opinion. And sometimes when I listen to if I'm in the car with someone, they force me to listen to country pop radio, like it is just so egregiously pandering to this specific set of people, which I understand that I belong to that, living in the Midwest on a farm. Like, I get that. I'm around pickup trucks and I'm around people who drink beer instead of, more beer than water every day. Like, I get that. I understand that. That's not me. That's not the people that I surround myself with. And those things are just cliches that make me roll my eyes. And I want to get away from those things as far as possible. And when I hear country songs that just pander so hard to this specific group of people, it really just is disheartening to me and it makes me roll my eyes. Really didn't get much of that at all on here, which I really thought Welcome Home was a whole album basically full of that. So... but again, Zac Brown is one of those bands that they can reach outside their like, we have a radio single on country pop radio. They can reach outside that with crazy songs and good solos and great musicianship and something that they can really take pride in. They have all those elements in their band, whether they're doing a stupid country pop song or whether they're doing some really intricate, complicated thing. And I don't want to just make it sound like technical musical prowess is like the end-all be-all of good music. I really think that there is a place in the world for great pop music. And at the end of the day, writing a really, 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 really good song that's a special song is a really, really, really hard thing to do. I don't think that just writing pop songs is a super easy thing to do. And so that the fact that they have 14 full-length songs and one song that was less than 2.5 minutes long that was kind of a bit of a joke song there towards the end, joke to me because it wasn't really worth listening to because it's only basically half of a song. Not just because of the length, but because of the structuring of the song as well. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty good about this. A 15-track album. Every song was produced really well, written really well, performed really well. I really can't complain too much about that. I think that they could have stepped over the line of what was expected of them a little bit more. I don't know. I don't like follow bands on Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. I don't even have those things. So I don't know a lot about like the personal lives of the members of the bands that I enjoy a lot. And so I don't know how the response to Jekyll and Hyde affected them. It seems to me, just looking at it from what I know of listening to their albums, that they released Jekyll and Hyde and that was like the height of their creativity and their experimentation. And then after that, from what I saw so many terrible reviews of that album and people just ripping it apart. Maybe that really like got to the core of them and they said, look, we can't do that anymore. We got to be just a country band. And I think that was why Welcome Home was such a disappointing album to me and why, to me, it felt so cheap and cliche. And then they stepped it up again a little bit with The Owl, adding the sort of gritty production to it. This is where, okay, I'm back. It was just a telemarketer. Go figure. Anyway, I was pretty much done with what I was saying anyway, but I want to come here and just say thank you very much for watching. I said in my last few videos that I'm starting to feel a lot of pressure here at the end of the year to listen to everything that I have to listen to before I can make my list. So the next 2 albums that I need to do, I'm currently waiting in the mail on the brand new Diablo Swing Orchestra album, which I cannot wait to listen to. Cannot wait. Also, the Joke J album, Awaken, which I think could be my #1 album of the year and possibly one of my most favorite albums I've ever heard in my life based on the few samples I've heard of some of his stuff and the fact that I love the band And1 so much. Waiting on that stuff. I also have Damon Albarn's album coming when it gets released, the new Damon Albarn album, the new Soul Savers and Dave Gahan album, Lord Huron. I need to listen to the rest of that one. And then I have with me in my possession the brand new Starset album that came out earlier this year, and the double album from the band Lord of the Lost. So I have to listen to these things too. So like I have a lot of stuff coming up, feel a lot of pressure to get everything done, and I've decided I'm just going to record some of these videos, and I don't know when it's going to be that they come out. I may have to push some of this stuff back to 2022. but at least I will get my reactions recorded the very first time, and I can share it with everybody. So again, thank you very much for watching. Take this Zac Brown Band album, share it with someone that you don't think would like it, because you never know. They may surprise you and become a fan. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next video.